Grandma and Grandpa were watching a healing service on TV. The evangelist called to all who wanted to be healed to go to their TV set, place one hand on the TV and the other hand on the body part where they wanted to be healed. Grandma got up and slowly hobbled to the TV, placed her right hand on the set and her left hand on her arthritic shoulder that was causing her to have great pain. Then Grandpa got up, went to the TV, placed his right hand on the set and his left hand on his crotch. Grandma scowled at him and said, "I guess you just don't get it. The purpose of doing this is to heal the sick, not to raise the dead." The madam opened the brothel door in New York City and was greeted by a well-dressed, handsome man in his late 40s. "May I help you, sir?" she asked. "I want to see Rosie," he replied. She said, "Rosie is our most expensive lady. Perhaps you'd like to see someone else?" "No," he said. "I must see Rosie." Rosie appeared and told him, "I charge $10,000 a visit." Without hesitation, the man handed her the cash. They went upstairs. An hour later, he left. The next night, he came back. Rosie was stunned. No one ever returned a second night at that price. Still, he paid and went upstairs with her. On the third night, he came again. Everyone was in shock. Again, he paid $10,000 and went upstairs. Afterwards, Rosie asked, "No one's ever done this. Where are you from?" He replied, "Brooklyn." She said, "No way. I have family in Brooklyn." "I know," he said. "Your sister passed away. I'm her lawyer. She asked me to deliver your $30,000 inheritance." A farmer is giving his blonde wife last-minute instructions before heading to town to do chores. "That fellow from the university will be along this afternoon to inseminate one of the cows. I've hung a nail by the right stall so you'll know which one I want him to impregnate." Satisfied that his blonde wife understood the instructions, the farmer leaves for town. That afternoon, the inseminator arrives, and the wife dutifully takes him out to the barn and directly to the stall with the nail. "This is the cow right here," she tells him. "What's the nail for?" the guy asks. Replies the wife, "I guess it's to hang up your pants." On the night of a Halloween costume party, a couple were having trouble picking suitable outfits. After a while, the wife got mad and stormed out of the room. 15 minutes later, she came back completely naked except for a lemon between her legs. The husband looked at her for a moment and then stormed out of the room himself. 20 minutes passed, and then he came back with a potato around his penis. The wife gave him a weird look, and then the husband replied, "If you're going as a sourpuss, I'm going as a dictator." The poor little rich girl awoke after a long night out on the town with her friends. She found herself totally naked and with a monster of a hangover, so she rang for her butler and ordered a strong cup of black coffee. When he delivered it, she said, "Jeeves, I can't remember a thing about last night. How did I get to bed?" "I carried you upstairs, ma'am, and put you to bed." "But my dress?" "It seemed a pity to crumple it, so I removed it and hung it in your closet." "But what about my underwear?" "I feared the elastic might limit your circulation, so I took the liberty of removing them." "What a night," she sighed. "I must have been tight." "Only the first time, ma'am." 3 men in heaven. 3 men were sitting on a bench in heaven discussing how they died. The first man said, "I died of cancer." The second man said, "I died of tuberculosis." The third man said, "I died of sinus." The first 2 men said, "No, you mean sinus." The third man said, "No, I mean see us. I was out with my friend's wife and he's seen us." Teacher: "All right, you little shit. Cows have 4 of them, but I got 2. What are they?" Johnny: "Legs, miss." The principal is taken aback, but before he could say anything, the teacher continues. "Teacher, what can be found in your pants but not in mine?" Johnny: "Pockets, miss." Teacher: "Correct. Where do women have their hair the curliest?" Johnny: "In Africa, Miss Teacher." "What is soft?" But on a woman's hand becomes hard. Johnny. Nail polish, miss. The principal is beside himself at this point, but before he could interject, Teacher. What do men and women have in the middle of their legs? Johnny. Knees. Teacher. What do married women have wider than unmarried women? Johnny. Beds. Teacher. Which part of my body gets dripping wet when I'm excited? Johnny. Your tongue. Teacher. What starts with the letter A? It starts narrow but widens over time, and men always ask for it. Johnny. Autobahn. The principal, out of breath and sweaty, finally stops the questions. One rainy Saturday afternoon, a Swede, an Irishman, a Scotsman, and their wives decided to spend the day bowling. As they lined up at lane 4, the Swede's wife stepped up first. Just as she bent down to pick her ball off the return, a gust from the overhead fan lifted her skirt, revealing she wasn't wearing any underwear. Her husband, Ole, turned red and sputtered, "For heaven's sake, Ingrid, why on earth aren't you wearing any knickers?" She gave a casual shrug. "You don't give me enough money to buy any." Mortified, Ole reached into his wallet and handed her a 50. "For decency's sake, go get yourself some underwear." Next up was the Irishman's wife. As she leaned over to line up her shot, whoosh! Another gust of air, another flash of bare essentials, or, rather, lack thereof. Patrick clutched his chest. "Sweet mother of mercy, Mary, no underwear? What's the story?" Mary just sighed. "You never give me enough to buy such things." With a groan, Patrick dug out a 20 and said, "Take this, and for the love of modesty, go get some." Then came Aggie, the Scotsman's wife. As she stepped up for her turn, the fan hit just right, and up went her skirt, revealing she, too, was flying free. Duncan smacked his forehead. "Ach, Aggie, why are ye bowling with no bloomers?" Crossing her arms, she replied, "Ye never give me enough money, Duncan." Duncan didn't even flinch. He reached in his pocket and handed her a comb. "For decency's sake, at least make the place look presentable. We're in public, lass." He was just minding his own business on the morning train, half awake and sipping lukewarm coffee, when he noticed the woman sitting across from him smiling, not just politely, but the kind of smile that made him wonder if he had spinach in his teeth or if his fly was down. Then she leaned forward and said with a glint in her eye, "Every time you smile, I feel like inviting you to my place." His heart skipped a beat. Was this real life? Did he just step into a rom-com? He grinned back, trying to look charming but not too eager, and asked, "Are you single?" She laughed and shook her head. "No, I'm a dentist." Suddenly, the romance train hit the brakes. Turns out she didn't want him. She wanted his molars. A young man was visiting his brother and sister-in-law for the holidays. As he arrived at their house, he found his young nephew, Junior, helping them bake some cupcakes. After they were done, his sister-in-law allowed Junior High to put the icing on. When the boy had finished, he brought them to the table. "The cupcakes look delicious, Bob," his uncle said. He took a bite and said, "Junior, these are so good." As he finished cupcake and took another, he again complimented his little nephew. "The cupcakes look beautiful, Bob," his uncle said. "How did you get the icing so neat?" his nephew replied. "It was easy. I just licked them." The uncle turned pale. He pointed to the plate of cupcakes. "You licked all of these?" Junior replied. "Well, no. After a while, my tongue got tired, and I got the dog to help." The teacher asked little Johnny if he knew his numbers. "Yes," he said. "My dad taught me." "Good. So what comes after 8? 9, answered Johnny. "And what comes after 9? 10. And what comes after 10? The jack." The girlfriend and I had a blazing row, then she stormed off, jumped in the car, sped away, and ended up wrapping it round a lamppost and killing herself. I was so upset I went to a medium as I wanted to apologize for my harsh words. For half an hour, we sat there in silence, watching the Ouija board. All of a sudden, the medium stands up and says, "That'll be $500, please." "But nothing's happened," I replied. "She's still not talking to you," said the medium. A helicopter carrying passengers suddenly loses engine power and begins to descend rapidly. The pilot manages to safely perform an emergency landing on the water. Over the intercom, he tells the passengers, "Everyone remain calm, stay in your seats, and do not open the doors." In an emergency, this helicopter is designed to stay afloat for at least 30 minutes, giving rescuers enough time to reach us. Just then, one man jumps out of his seat and rushes toward the door. The pilot yells, "Hey, didn't you hear what I said? The helicopter will stay afloat as long as the doors remain closed." The man shouts back, "Oh, I heard you, but it was also designed to fly. And look how well that worked out." One sunny afternoon, a sweet old grandmother was cleaning out her attic with her loyal cat trailing behind her like a shadow. While rummaging through old boxes, she stumbled upon a small, dusty lamp. Curious, she picked it up and gave it a good rub with her apron. Poof! A genie exploded from the lamp in a swirl of smoke and sparkles. "I shall grant you 3 wishes," he declared. The grandmother blinked in shock, then grinned. "All right, then. I wish to be the most stunning 20-year-old woman on earth. I wish to be wealthier than I could ever dream. And I wish my cat would become the most handsome prince in the world." The genie gave a dramatic bow, snapped his fingers, and vanished with the lamp. Suddenly, bam! She looked into a mirror, young, glowing, jaw-droppingly beautiful. Around her, the attic was overflowing with stacks of money. She tossed a few bills into the air and giggled as they floated down like confetti. Then she turned and gasped. Standing where her cat once sat was now a breathtaking man. Tall, sculpted, with piercing eyes and a smirk straight out of a romance novel. He stepped forward, took her face in his hands, leaned in, and whispered gently, "So, do you still regret having me neutered?" A dog strolls past a tech store and notices a sign in the window. "Help wanted. Must type, must code, must be bilingual. Equal opportunity employer." The dog grabs the poster in his mouth, walks in, and drops it at the manager's feet. Amused, the manager decides to play along. "Okay, buddy. First test. Type a letter." He sets the dog up with a keyboard and walks away. 30 minutes later, the dog has written a perfectly formatted, error-free letter. The manager raises an eyebrow. "All right, then. Let's see you program." 20 minutes later, the dog has built a working e-commerce site for the store. Now the manager's impressed and slightly nervous. "Look, I have to admit, you're qualified, but you're a dog." The dog silently points to the line on the poster, "Equal opportunity employer." The manager sighs, "Fine, but there's no way you're bilingual." The dog looks him dead in the eyes and says, "Meow." A young man named Jake bought a horse from a rancher for $250. The rancher agreed to deliver it the next day, but the next morning he showed up looking uncomfortable. "Hey, Jake, there's a problem. The horse, well, let's just say he's no longer with us." Jake raised an eyebrow. "All right then, just give me my money back." The rancher sighed. "I'd love to, but I already spent it." Jake paused, then said, "Okay. Just bring the horse over anyway." The rancher was confused. "What on earth are you going to do with him now?" Jake smirked. "I'm going to raffle him off." The rancher burst out laughing. "You can't raffle off a horse that's, out of service." Jake just said, "Watch me. I just won't mention that part." A month later, they ran into each other again. The rancher asked, "So, what happened with that horse?" Jake replied, "Raffled him off. Sold 500 tickets at $5 each and made $20,500. The rancher was stunned. "Didn't anyone complain?" Jake smiled. "Only the winner, so I gave him his $5 back." Some people see a problem. Others see potential. Once upon a time, a king decided to spend the day fishing with his beloved queen. Before leaving the palace, he called in his royal weather expert. "Will it rain today?" he asked. "Not a single drop, Your Majesty," the forecaster declared with full confidence. "Clear skies all day." Satisfied, the king and queen packed their fishing gear and headed out. On the way, they passed a farmer riding a donkey. The old man tipped his hat and said kindly, "Your Highness, if you value staying dry, I'd turn back now. A storm is coming." The king laughed. "My dear farmer, I have a professional meteorologist with degrees, charts, and instruments. I trust him, not the ears of a donkey." And off the royal couple went. Within the hour, boom! Thunder cracked, skies turned black, and rain came down like buckets. The king and queen were soaked to the bone. Even the royal wig floated away. Back at the palace, dripping and furious, the king fired the official weather expert on the spot. He called for the farmer and said, "You were right. I want you to be my new weather advisor." The farmer scratched his head and replied, "Me? I'm no expert. I just look at my donkey. When his ears droop, I know rain is coming." The king nodded solemnly. "Then from now on, your donkey will be the official royal forecaster." And that, my friends, is how the first donkey got appointed to a high government position. A tradition that, unfortunately, is still alive and well in many places today. A chicken goes into the library, walks up to the librarian and says, "Book." The librarian says, "You want a book?" "Book. Any book. Book." So the librarian gives the chicken a novel and off it goes. An hour later, the chicken comes back and says, "Book, book." The librarian says, "Now you want 2 books? Book, book." So she gives the chicken 2 more novels. The chicken leaves, but again comes back later. "Book, book, book." 3 books? Book, book, book. So the librarian gives the chicken 3 books, but she decides she'll follow the chicken and find out what's going on. And the chicken goes down the alley, out of town and toward the woods, into the woods and down to the river, down to the swamp, and there is a bullfrog. The chicken sets the books down by him. The bullfrog looks at the books and says, "Read it, read it, read it." A well-dressed man walked into a small hotel and politely asked the manager, "Is room 39 available tonight?" The manager checked. "Yes, sir, it's free." "I'd like to reserve it," the man said. "And one more thing. I'll need a black knife, a 39-centimeter piece of white string, and 1 orange, exactly 73 grams. The manager raised an eyebrow, but agreed, curious about the odd request. The man went to his room quietly. He didn't order food, didn't ask for Wi-Fi, didn't request towels. Nothing. But after midnight, strange noises came from room 39. Wild animal sounds, clanking metal, whispers. It was like a jungle and a kitchen had collided. The manager stayed up all night wondering what on earth was going on. But in the morning, when the man checked out, room 39 was spotless. The orange, the knife, and the string were all untouched on the table. A year passed. Same month, same man, same room, same requests, and again, the same bizarre midnight chaos. The manager, now losing sleep and sanity, was determined to get answers. On the 3rd year, when the man came back yet again with the exact same routine, the manager finally asked, "Please, I have to know. What's happening in room 39? I won't tell a soul, I promise." The man leaned in and said, "If I tell you, You must never share it with anyone. Swear it." "I swear," the manager said, heart pounding. And so the man told him the secret. To this day, the manager hasn't told a single person what he heard, and I respect that. But when he finally cracks and tells me, I'll be sure to let you know. Until then, I'm off to confuse someone else with this story. Tag a friend and don't break the chain. They need to be just as confused as we are. A husband and wife were grocery shopping together when the husband casually grabbed a case of Budweiser and tossed it into the cart. "What do you think you're doing?" the wife asked, raising an eyebrow. "It's on sale. Only $10 for the whole case," he replied, hopeful. "We don't need it. Put it back," she said firmly. They kept shopping, and a few aisles later, the wife picked up a $20 jar of face cream and added it to the cart. "What's that for?" the husband asked, slightly annoyed. "It's my face cream. It makes me look beautiful," she said confidently. The husband grinned. "So does the Budweiser, and it's half the price."